You're listening to Secrets of a Bridal Seamstress podcast. I'm your host, Nadine Bozeman. In this podcast, I'm sharing business systems and strategies specifically tailored to the bridal sewing industry so you can build your own modern and profitable bridal alterations business. Join me as I also get to chat with fellow seamstresses and share their personal success stories. I'm so glad you're here and that we can grow together in this unique trade. Hey friends, before we get into another episode, I wanted to share with you about a free private podcast series that we have available for you, all about the subject of branded fitting packages. So if you have ever considered charging for fittings or maybe adding a little bit of additional passive income to your average ticket, this would be a great free podcast series for you to explore. It also includes testimonials of bridal seamstresses who have added branded fitting packages to their own portfolio, and they share about their additional income that they've seen in the years since adding fitting packages. And we're talking about like $15,000 to $20,000 in revenue. So it's a big chunk of change. And I can confidently say that every bridal seamstress that has added branded fitting packages to their portfolio has seen this kind of exponential growth and benefit to their business. So I encourage you to sign up for that free podcast series, and it will hit your inbox as soon as you sign up. And you'll have all the tools that you need to create your own fitting packages and also put together a beautiful investment guide to share these services with your potential clients. So that link is in the show notes if you're interested in tuning in. And I'm really excited to learn what this could do for your business this year. All right, welcome back to another episode. Today, I'm really excited for this conversation. We have Monique from Monique's So Unique, and she is from New Brunswick. And we have this, it's not exactly a glamorous conversation, but it is a conversation that needs to be had about when we have difficult situations with clients and how do we professionally conquer the insecure feelings that pop up? How do we move forward? But I think more importantly too, Monique, you have so many cool stories to share about like your whole business adventure and kind of what it's morphed into. So I don't want to give too much away, but welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. So how about you just tell us what inspired Monique's So Unique? Maybe like the initial business model before it morphed into what it is now.
So probably what inspired me, I've been sewing from a really young age. And throughout my school years, especially high school, I'd have friends ask me if I can make things for them. And then it turned into like, can you do my prom dress? So I'd make prom dresses. And I just really enjoyed that part of it, starting from scratch, making something and bringing it to life for an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, of course, after high school, 4 years later, I got married. And it kind of was just a side thing for a few years. And not until we moved out to New Brunswick did it blow up and become a full-time gig. Yeah.
Wow. Is that because like there were so few of you in New Brunswick? Yeah.
But we were also in a rural area in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas now we're more central in a city.
Okay. Yeah. So there are people.
There's people
that can make a difference. You know what's so funny is I'm always amazed at how many people share that like they started sewing at a young age and they were sewing for their schoolmates in high school. Like I don't think I would have had the nerve to do that, but I think that's so telling. Like if you were bold enough and daring enough to like sew for others, and yeah, you can make your prom dress like as a high schooler. That is awesome. So who taught you how to sew?
Me, myself, and I.
You're kidding, even as a kid?
Yeah.
Well, that was before YouTube. So how did you learn? How did people learn things, right? Because I'm like thinking back, what did we do? Go to the library? Just play with fabric? Like, how did you learn?
So I had a grandmother who did a little bit of sewing. My mom did a little bit of sewing. And I just remember them at the kitchen table making dresses, like for us to wear on Sundays. But I don't even remember like, watching them work and, taking notes in my head. I'm like, oh, that looks fun.
Yeah.
So my mom would take me to Fabric Land in Ontario, and I picked out a pattern, and it was probably more elaborate than I should have started with, but it was so much fun. And yeah, I put that together, and every time I got another pattern and started learning new techniques, and it just
Yeah.
kept building.
Yeah. I mean, we got to give a little credit to like the pattern companies because they do teach some minimal techniques in the patterns themselves.
Yeah.
Like, okay, what's the next step? Oh, how do I do that? Oh, you look at the weird picture and okay, figure it out. But that is
Yeah.
so cool. Like, and I think that's such a skill to be like a self-taught learner because you already have what it takes to pick up the skills. You know what I mean? So everything else is like a bonus. All the
Yeah.
other education is a bonus. So when you moved to New Brunswick, were you automatically doing bridal only, or did you open up to just alterations or?
Yeah. I had just opened up to general alterations. And then I had reached out to one of the bridal shops here, didn't hear anything back. I'm like, okay, they have people here already. It's like no use. And then it was word of mouth. Girls started bringing wedding dresses. And then maybe at that point, word got back to the bridal shop about it. And they're like, oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she can do work.
Yeah.
Started referring people. And then, yeah, from that, it just turned into I'm getting too busy with the things that I really, really love to be doing
hmm
smaller alterations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember like a specific client interaction or like, because I remember probably my first like 12 brides like very vividly. You know what I mean? Like, do you remember one of the first gowns that came through that just like lit you up and you're like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do?
It wasn't a gown coming in from a shop. It was my sister's gown that I made from
Whoa.
scratch.
Okay.
That was like, yes, this is what I want to do full time.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
aside
that is so
from work,
funny because I did the same thing for my sister's wedding gown. And
really,
that was like, it was probably one of my first brides. Was she my first bride? I should remember this. I feel like I had a couple other brides before her, but she had a very specific vision. And it's so funny. I remember going to our local bridal shop just to like try on dresses, which is so funny because we know now that they hate that. But I was like, oh yeah, we can just go and like see what style you want, you know? And I'm like, so I'm cringing to think about that. And my girlfriend who like owns the bridal shop, you know, we've gone back and forth about that because she's teased me because I just didn't know, you know. And so my sister really wanted a T-length dress, and at the time that just wasn't a thing. Like you know, and she didn't want to order like a vintage gown, like a costumey gown. She just wanted a T-length dress, and she had a very clear vision. So we ended up. She found a dress at Goodwill or Facebook Marketplace or something for like $50, and then we stripped it down, and I made it from like what she wanted. I think I was too nervous to actually start from scratch, but it was totally in my head because that's what we ended up doing anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
yeah,
even know what we used originally. I think there was like a bow right here that we ended up putting back on the new dress, but anyway, like that interaction with my sister and then seeing it come together and then also thinking, what could I have charged if you were like a real person? You know what I mean? Like all of these hours that I just gave away. So that is so funny that it was with your sister too. So what was her dress like and why couldn't she find it in stores?
so hers was more or less the price range
Oh
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
dress she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, there's no way I can come up with that. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
let's make something as with that as your inspiration. She's like, you would do that? I'm like, absolutely. Yeah. So
That is
it,
so cool. Yeah.
oh
So
well,
now, like, what is your favorite part about bridal sewing now? Like, what lights you up?
I would say the projects. People are
hmm
great, treat me really well. And I know you, I'm pretty sure you hate these jobs when a good fixer upper comes in.
Yes.
I
There's
love
a
those
limit
jobs.
on those, an annual limit.
Yeah. Yeah. Between that, it's a tie between that and the really intricate work, like the beading, like the lace applique, that type of thing.
Like the hand stitching
Um,
work. Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like
Love
Sarah Betty is into that too. Like
it.
that's her jam. Is like the beautiful slow sewing and like appreciating every step.
Yeah.
But that, like, you need to plan for that because if you don't, that becomes like the most annoying job ever is the stuff that you have to hand. So if you're like, like trying to
Yeah.
like beat the clock. So there's
Yeah.
definitely some intention behind that for sure.
Is for sure. And
hmm
actually, speaking of that, right now is like right in the middle of prom season. And I have a job sitting down in my studio that I'm like, I need to just dedicate an entire day
Mm-hmm.
and not answer phone calls, not answer texts or emails, and just sit and do it. Ignore, the 20 prom dresses sitting in the corner. Just do it.
That's great that you like have prom dresses. And my shop is like literally 3 blocks from a local, like very preppy high school. And I maybe get like two a year. And I don't, and the thing is, like these families there's a really cute dress shop about like 20 miles south of me, and they have beautiful prom dresses. And these families will spend like, $400 on a prom dress, but they don't want to get them hemmed. And I'm like, what? So then you see the pictures because I'm like Facebook friends with a lot of these moms, and it's like, why aren't these beautiful gowns hemmed? Like you just
Yeah.
dropped like half a mortgage payment on this gown, and like you don't want it to get like fit. I don't know. It's so strange. So it must just be like a regional thing because I feel like I'm the only person in my little seamstress friend group
It
that like
is.
does not see prom.
Yeah. We for sure did not go out as crazy as they did that I find in Moncton here.
Yeah.
They'll spend more on a prom dress than I did on my wedding dress.
Yeah.
Like it is
For
insane.
real.
For
It's like
real.
just a totally different world. Like, okay, well, it must be nice. Okay. Anyway, okay, so I really want to hear how you transitioned from your alterations business, which sounds like it was thriving, and now you have a consignment business that has borderline taken over. It's like has a mind of its own. So how did you get into that, and like where are you now with that business?
Okay, so where are we now? You want to
Like
start?
how many closets in your house is shoved full with dresses?
None yet, because I'm really denying the fact that there's that many downstairs. My husband suggested, he's like, why don't you just like store some in our closet because we have space? I'm like, no, I'm no. That would clearly point to me being out of control. But
That's so
it
funny.
so it started during COVID. Alterations, obviously, people are like, well, I'm not getting married right now, so I don't need my alterations. So that kind of took a dip. And I had a friend or acquaintance reach out and she's like, you see a lot of people. Can you sell my dress? I'm like, I'm not really into that, but like I'll list it on Marketplace for you.
Yeah.
I ended up selling it. And she's like, you should really think about this as a business. I'm like, people can sell their own stuff on Marketplace. Like, I don't have time. So then obviously during COVID, it came to mind again. I'm like, maybe I should start. So I started off with a handful of prom dresses and a handful of wedding gowns. And I was just reaching out to people on Marketplace, like, hey, I'd love to give you a hand selling your gown. You want to bring it in and
Wow.
find it for you. And that's how it started.
Wow. So you were like
Um,
hustling in Facebook Marketplace.
very much so. Yes.
I did not
Like,
know that. That is so funny.
it kind of feels dirty, but I'm like, I'm so smart.
Yeah, seriously, because as somebody who's tried to sell my wedding gown on Facebook Marketplace, it's not fun. And then
No,
like you forget that it's up there, and then it's like I think it was up there for like a year and a half, and then I got like a reminder, and I'm like, oh, that's so cringy that it's like still been up there after all this time. So I can understand their appreciation for somebody reaching out to help out.
yeah, yeah. I realized that prom dresses, the secondhand, were not doing well. So I said,
Yeah.
I'm limited on space. I'm just going to break it down and just do bridal.
Hmm.
So over time, word got out. I was still doing the marketplace thing, which I don't have to do anymore. People are just coming to me.
Word got out. Yeah.
Word got out. And now I have a wait list.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So then
And
how do you advertise that? Like how did you learn to bring, because I feel like that's such a different audience, as bridal seamstresses, our audience is, engaged brides who already have dresses. And now you have to advertise like one step further back, like, okay, you don't have a dress yet. So how did you work that out?
just reaching out on marketplace and local buy and sell groups. That was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It
It
sounds so simple, honestly. Like,
it
okay,
is. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. That's my best kept secret.
Okay. We'll say that again at the end of the episode.
Yeah. So right now with the business and how quickly it's growing out of my space, we're in the process of looking at commercial space. We've been
Wow.
looking at commercial space for over a year now.
It has been a while. Yeah.
It's a task. And I guess I just don't want to settle for a space just because I want to grow. I want it to
Right.
be the best space. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so smart. Because as you were taking in, so how did the retail affect your alteration schedule? Because I'm sure like you could only take so many sewing clients if you had to make time for like your shopping clients. So how did you work out that schedule conflict?
Yeah. So that was a big hurdle that I just had to work through and really test out what works best with like my personal schedule and my family
Hmm.
and, prime shopping times, obviously for
Yeah.
kids who are working full time. So I have it divided. I have a few daytime appointments during the week, but the majority is like Fridays and Saturdays.
Hmm.
And Saturdays by 1 or 2, I'm done working. I won't take anything after that because then that's my family time for the weekend. And then Sunday's family time. Monday is just me time to get either if I have work to do, admin stuff to do. That's
Yeah.
my day. So no appointments. And
Yeah.
then the rest of the week rolls into more alterations appointments.
And what are you finding, and you can be as vague as you want, what are you finding is more profitable, like your alterations or the consignment? Also including like your time trade-off.
Hmm. So in the beginning, the consignment, the time trade-off was, I don't know, not so great.
Yeah, I'm
You're
sure. Kind of
investing.
figuring
I
out
do.
like how to reach people and like where to post and what's working. Like there's probably a lot of trial and error, which is
Yeah.
so different than sewing. Like you can like you're using your hands, you know what the outcome's going to be. You don't have to rely on an algorithm or like reaching people or
Yeah.
marketing. So it's so different. Yeah.
Yeah. So the consignment, when girls want to come in and shop, it's an hour-long appointment. I do have the option of a VIP appointment, which is 2 hours, and they pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
So the 1 hour, they can come in, shop. In the beginning, because my selection was it wasn't a great selection. It was like, I don't even know it'd be half the girls would find something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a lot of time invested for not much.
Yeah.
But over the years now, it's like, I don't know, 75%
Well, that's great.
close the sale. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Hmm.
So as you added that piece, like what were some, I mean, you kind of already touched on that of like the marketing piece or like figuring out how to use Facebook Marketplace really well or just how to like reach the buyers. But like, were there unexpected hurdles that came up, like things that affected the alterations piece or even just like, I just feel like a retail business is so different than a service-based business. And you kind of like you use a different part of your brain because then you have to be like a sales lady, like, oh, let me like you're now a bridal stylist, not a bridal seamstress. So what kind of challenges came up when you added that piece to the business that maybe you weren't expecting?
For one, I'm an introvert. So happy to put on this happy face. Like, I'm so happy you're my fourth customer today, and I'm so tired and I just don't want to see you right now. So there was that. But I think for the most part, it kind of came naturally.
Hmm.
And that's typically me. If it comes naturally, I'll do it. If not, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So, and I found it worked well together. And girls really loved the fact that I told them, I'm like, you're coming into a bridal consignment shop and I am a seamstress by trade. So if you have any questions during your shopping experience, just ask
Yeah.
because I can
Yeah.
tell you, don't buy this dress because you're not going to be able to do what you want to do with it. Here's
Right.
a dress that you can. So I think they really loved the fact that I could tell them that before they committed to a large purchase.
Right. Right. You kind of had that like insider scoop.
Yeah.
So where do you want to see this balance like in 3 years? Do you want to stay like the same ratio? where would you want to see the consignment and the alterations business in a few years from now?
I would say the same ratio, but just on a larger scale,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 2, 3, 4 employees.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have a space, you're going to have a small staff, be able to delegate. Yeah. And it's really exciting when you see like the little steps working, like probably when you have that first win of like the first person finding you on Facebook Marketplace and then they buy the dress and you're like, ooh, yay. And that gives you just enough to get to the next step and like try the next risk, because we do need that. It's like you can't just dive off the diving board without that confidence that comes from the small wins. You know what I mean? So it's like you're
Yeah.
seeing that this is working, the balance works. The brides love to have your opinion as a seamstress. Like that's giving them the confidence to buy the dress because they're like, oh yeah, okay, so Monique says that this can be done, whatever. Like that's really cool to know that it's working. So like just larger scale, it can still work with your fingerprint on it.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
That's
Okay, I kind of want to switch gears here a little bit.
Yeah.
So Monique is a member of Secrets of Bridal Seamstress membership, and you have been really open about a couple situations. I think one is mostly coming to mind uh, about just a struggle with a client. And we try to talk about that in the membership because it can be such a taboo topic of like having an unsatisfied customer or, having a bad review or whatever. And like, we don't want to talk through it, but then shame can be associated with that. And like, maybe it is all me and it just can, then you just get in a spiral, right? So recently you had a client interaction that, speaking of spiral, it totally was a spiral, but I really appreciate how you like included us in how you worked through it and like you were able to separate yourself like emotionally and like look at the facts, and we kind of were all like so invested, like, okay, what's happening now, whatever. So if you could share that and we'll kind of talk through it so the audience can hear like it's not you, like things we can't control humans who come into our lives. So I'll let you take it away and I'll just add some like anecdotal comments along the way.
That is the first thing. Like I realized quickly that it was not me. It had nothing to do with me personally. And luckily I had my husband who's super supportive. He's like, it's not you. You did nothing wrong. So just work past that. Remove the emotions because it did suck.
And it's so easier said than done. Remove the emotions. What? Like,
Right. This is
this
like
is me. Like,
me.
they are coming after me personally. Like,
Yeah.
what?
That was the biggest hurdle. It was like, no, I can't. This is like, she's attacking me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she initially came in with a dress she'd got on clearance, wanted to make this dress her own. She figured if she bought a cheaper dress, she could do some customizations, which is great. We discussed, or she told me what she wanted to do. I said, great, this is your cost, da da da. Okay, let's go ahead. Good. And then it was a few appointments in, I don't know, a second appointment. She was like in love, gaga over the dress. She's like, I love what you're doing with it. It was like the third or fourth appointment. I can't remember now. And then stuff just went sour.
Mm.
I was like, I don't know what's happening. So she had mentioned that she had hired on a wedding planner to help because they weren't actually getting married here. They were getting married away. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but whatever.
And how long was her alterations process? Because sometimes I feel like the longer time you have with these people, the weirder it gets.
It was quite long.
Yeah.
It was, I don't even could guess, 6 months.
I currently have a bride who I thought that she wanted to get her alterations done early because she travels a lot for work. And I'm like, we've been together now for 6 months. So what's happening? You know what I mean? It's like she's picking up this next week. So I'm like, okay, great. Like it just makes things, I feel like that in itself kind of makes things weird. Like, okay, we're still here. And she's only had 2 appointments so far, but it's just been so like spread out because of her work. And I'm like, this is, yeah, lots of thinking time,
Yeah. So it came time for her last payment, and she said she didn't want me to do any more work. There was still some touch-ups that I had to do. I'm like, we need to work that out first. She refused. She's like, nope, I'm taking my dress. I'm like, okay. And then there was some email conversation about expectation. And I was like, you know what? I'm really sorry that this is not what you expected. Don't worry about the last payment. Like, just, I want to be done with you.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sometimes
she
that's what it takes.
insisted, yeah, she insisted on paying. And I'm like, what? I'm really lost now. So she made her final payment, and then I don't know, two weeks later, I was served papers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not just an email, like you were literally served.
Yeah.
And how did that happen? Okay, because I only see it on TV. Did somebody come to your door and say you've been
No,
served?
New Brunswick doesn't have enough sheriff officers to serve papers, so you actually have to go to the courthouse and pick it up yourself.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
like,
That's like adding like insult to injury. Like, okay.
right? Are you kidding me right now? And that was a whole other fiasco too, because I was livid on the phone. I'm like, no, she wants to serve me. Papers come to my house.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, the sheriff's like, well, we don't have enough staff, but I'll figure it out. So the guy ended up coming here while I was on my way there. So I get there and they're like, well, your papers are with the sheriff who's doing deliveries. I'm like, they told me they couldn't. Anyway,
Oh my
that's a whole other
goodness. It
story.
started off really annoying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I finally got my papers, read through them. I'm like, this is like, she has no bearing whatsoever. And then my sweet sister, who was visiting at the time, read through it. She helped me craft a response based on all of our email communication. She's like, this girl's got nothing. Like, she's not
Mm-hmm.
making any sense. So I submitted my response, and I don't know what you call them, the court administrator or whatever. They look at my papers and they're like, are you not filing a, oh, what do you call it? Not a reverse, but back at her for like wasted
Mm-hmm.
time, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I really don't want to invest any more of my time or money into this person
Mm-hmm.
at all.
Yeah.
And then it was maybe a day, 2 days, she started emailing, wanting to work things out outside of the court system.
Oh no.
I'm like, so I didn't reply. I'm like, no, you've filed.
You've already taken this step. So
Yeah.
this
So
is
I'm
where
like,
we are.
and she was persistent. Anyway,
With
I'm
the
trying to
emails,
remember
she was persistent.
in the emails. Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
probably she, in anger, like filed something against you and then was like, oh gosh, what am I doing? And then is trying to like backpedal through emails. But like that's like illegal at that point.
That's what I
Isn't it?
thought. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
But because you do get the response, like anything that she would submit to the courts, I got a copy of. So as soon as she saw my response, I'm like, she knows that she's being
Oh,
ridiculous.
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So all that to say is she dropped the charges. She withdrew the charges.
And then
Yeah.
that was it.
And then she came with her dress to consign it.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Wait, did I know this part beforehand? Did you tell me this in Austin?
Possibly. Maybe.
I feel like my jaw would have hit the sidewalk because I remember having this conversation, but I don't remember her
Yeah.
coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm like, I'm just done. I'm like, you know what? Yes, I'll take your dress. Here's your payout. Bye. I don't want to have any more communications with you. Bye-bye.
Whoa. Oh my goodness. I can't believe you took the dress though, but you're like, actually, I will make money off of this. Thank you very much.
There was really expensive lace that went on it.
Oh my goodness. And then it's just been quiet ever since.
Yeah, it's been great.
That is so bizarre. Like, I mean, just I can't think of another word to describe it because once you get to the point where you're contacting the courts, you think that, and like she had zero self-awareness to like not come back. Like she came back to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So there are a few things because I feel like with every situation, because I've had my handful, whatever, there's always something that I can learn. Like, okay, like I could have done this better or I could have made this clearer or whatever. And there have been a couple situations that just totally got under my skin. But it's like, well, I can just add this clause to my contract. So I feel like to a certain extent, we do want to have some like self-reflection without like beating ourselves up. You know what I'm saying? But in your scenario, it's like I literally don't know what you could have done differently. And I know I shared this at the retreat. I recently had an experience with a bride who had totally different expectations, specifically about her weight loss potential. And I feel like for me, everything always comes down to documentation. Like just when you think that like the communication is very clear, we're all on the same page, they have a very different expectation because something weird is in their head and I didn't know it was there, you know? So for me, it's like everything has taught me I'm adding this clause to my contract. I'm adding another place to sign. Like you can initial here, you can initial here, like every design change. Okay, here's the sketch and here's your initial, and then I'm going to email you a follow-up that says, today at your appointment, we discussed blah, 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 whatever. And I'm so excited that you approved or whatever. And then for this particular weight loss gal, I've learned, well, never to, well, I can't say even never. I'm like, what did I learn actually? Now that I'm like trying to put it into words, but like, I've learned how to articulate that kind of conversation. So it's very clear that no promises are made.
Yeah.
Because when I was in the middle of that situation, I thought we were both on the same page, that she has these goals. She had two dresses that she had as backup, you know. And so, okay, well, we'll give it a shot with this dress. And if you're not where you want to be by the time the wedding rolls around, you have these two backup dresses that should have been signed, that there was like no promise, because that came up and I'm like, girl, I didn't promise you nothing. Like we were like 3 inches from zipping. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, like in retrospect, we can always learn things, but then there's also that balance, because you can just drive yourself crazy going in circles of like, what did I do wrong? Like it is me, it's my business. Like maybe I shouldn't even be doing this. I like what I could have done in that spiral is thought like, maybe I didn't know how to alter the dress. Maybe I didn't know how to open it up for her. It's like, well, I did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like that balance of being mature enough to take a step back and think like, okay, what could I have done differently and make the experience better for the next client? And then also having the wherewithal to be like, okay, like you said, step back emotionally.
Mhm.
These are my emotions telling me that I don't know what I'm doing. But in reality, these are the facts. And so it's like a process. And I think we get better at it, like the more these situations come up, because if this situation had happened to me, like even 3 years ago, I would have been like in a puddle. And this time around, I was like, okay, I posted about it in our circle group. And then it was like, I got to move on. Like, this is insane,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah.
So what advice would you get? I mean, you've already given us advice along the way, but to listeners who are maybe like in the middle of a scenario like this, or maybe that's like their biggest fear is, what we call like a bridezilla, which we know after being in the industry for a while, like bridezillas are very few and far between, but it's definitely like a huge fear. So what would you share with listeners who are like, I'm going through this now, like to get through it?
Yeah. Really just taking a step back from the situation. Like it's so easy to get worked up and emotionally like tangled in what's going on. But like I said, what really helped was my support system. Like my husband's great with that type of thing. Like he dealt with it many times in his career, not
Mm,
personally, but
mm-hmm.
with the company he was with. He's like, it's fine. So I eventually I just told myself, it's just money. It's just money, whatever. It's
Mm-hmm.
fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But really the biggest thing was remove yourself emotionally from it, as hard as it is. And I'm a very emotionally attached type of person. So
Yeah.
that was a big hurdle. But yeah, always have a really good, strong support system. They can help
Mm-hmm.
you walk through it step by step, take it one day at a time.
Yeah. And also like they can talk like normalcy back into you
Yes.
because they're not in it. So it's like, oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, okay, that's the truth.
Yes,
What's going on in my head is not the truth. Okay.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So how have you felt like, because was this last year? Was this 2023?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel that you've been different since then, like as a business owner?
Absolutely. Yeah. Big time. So I was never, and actually it started with you when I found your group and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I'm pretty sure it was one of your podcasts talking about contracts. and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the first thing I implemented, because I was always make a quick note. This is what you need. Okay, your dress is ready. Come pick it up. Done.
Yeah. Yeah.
No signing, no like anything. So
Well, I
that,
feel like a lot of people feel that way, and it takes a situation to make you
yeah,
feel like, oh, but
that's
for,
why.
like I said, for the majority of our clients, like it's always a great experience. And so
Yeah.
you don't want to like anticipate the trouble, you know?
Right.
Like, oh, it's not going to happen. Like they know me. I know my clients. Like this wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Like that's how I felt at the beginning too, was like, you know?
Yeah. And the like you said, the majority are fantastic to work with. It's
Yeah.
just like, it's always got to be that one.
Right.
So now I bank on one a year. But who's it gonna be?
Yeah, exactly. That's so funny because when mine happened, it was the end of 2023, and I was like, man, it's been a good, like, I had like an 18-month run. I'm like, this is
Nice.
amazing. And then it was like, oh man, I couldn't make it to the end of the year.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Because I remember one of the clauses that had to be added was to have somebody sign that they acknowledged the quote. That was one that came up that I'm like, you you were given the quote and then you saw the invoice, like, because I sent invoices and then they're divided into two payments, like, so you pay the first half, whatever. So this person had seen me like 3 times without bringing up the invoice, and then when she came to pick up the dress, I know it was like bizarre. Back to bizarre. That's like the word of the day.
yeah.
She came to pick up the dress and she had a friend with her, and it was like super weird because her friend was like got the whole appointment. And then she came up to the dress and she was like, what's this? What's this? And I'm like, who are you? Like, why are you here? And not celebrating the bride like at all. And the bride had, I don't know how to say this nicely, but like, you know, it was really difficult to fit a dress to her body. And I feel bad that she was sold. She bought a dress from like north of Seattle. I don't know why they sold this dress to her because it was not flattering at all. So we had to add a lot of like boning and structure to give her a shape, you know?
Yeah.
Because it was like this sheath dress. And I'm like, oh no, 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 no. So she was very emotional her first appointment. And then she came out. I remember specifically, she came out of the dressing room and she said, is it just me or do I really look this good? And I'm like, yeah, you look that good. I mean, she was so pumped, but I feel like her friend was given the role to be the critical one of my prices, you know, because I found this out afterwards. So I was like, why are you like acting like this? So the dress is all packaged, they're heading out the door, and the bride's like, I just want to let you know that I was like blindsided by the price. And I'm like, what? What? Like you were with me when we talked through everything. Like, and then her friend goes, yeah, if she knew that it was gonna be this much money, like she probably wouldn't have had all this work done. And I'm like, we both heard what she said when she came out of the dressing room. Like she knows that she looks good, and she didn't when she first came here. You know what I mean? Like, okay. But I'm like, oh, well, thank you so much for your feedback. You know, I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna get in a fight with this woman. I'm like, you're leaving my life, so that's fine. And so she said, yeah, we, you know, because I'm thinking, you've seen me 3 times. Like she had 4 appointments total. So I'm like, you've seen me 3 times and you didn't want to bring this up, but you waited till now. So this like tainted your final fitting, you know. It was super bizarre. So now I just add that line, like you need to sign that you acknowledge this is the quote. We're all on the same page. And it just, you know, you add these things and it just rolls off your tongue because you say it every day. So it's not weird. Your clients don't think it's weird, but it's like necessary. And then another one which seemed obvious to me was I fitted a bride to a dress, so she'd wear Birkenstocks with her dress, like she wanted to wear flats. And it was like this whole thing because her mom would come to every fitting and her mom would be like, I can't believe you want to wear your Birks. And then the bride's like, I want Birks and tacos. Like it was like their joke, like Birks and tacos at the wedding. And then after the wedding, the mom emails me and she was like, everything was beautiful. Thank you so much. But the dress was so short and we were so disappointed. And I was like, I've never hemmed a short dress because I feel like that's like literally like a nightmare, you know? So like, I feel like I'm paranoid about it. And so this is another mistake that I made. I made a promise before I actually had the facts because I was like, oh my goodness, I would, because the email from the mom said, we were so disappointed with how short the dress was. We want to have new bridal portraits taken of the dress, which, by the way, never happened to spoil the end of the story. She never got new portraits. But the mom wanted the dress to be made longer, like a lace applique hem made longer. So I'm like, oh my goodness. So I'm thinking I ruined this poor woman's wedding day. I will happily do whatever it takes to give her the bridal portraits that she wants. Like, please bring your dirty, smelly. It was so smelly. Bring the dress back. I will do whatever I can. Well, then I see photos of the wedding day and I see her stilettos that she's wearing with the dress. And I almost died. And I was like, I and like this is, the mom already made the appointment to bring the dress back, and I'm like, what the heck is happening? So I sent mom an email and I said, oh, I didn't realize like that she was wearing stilettos, like she had Birkenstocks on. And so then the mom's like, no, it was always the plan for her to wear stilettos. Like then that going around and around, and I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to like eat this time because I put my foot in the mouth and I was like, I promised you the world, and I'm gonna add what 4 inches to your lace hem, which that wasn't easy. Okay. And then the best part was I knew like 3 of her vendors that were there that day. I knew her makeup artist, her hair
Absolutely. Yeah.
stylist, and I knew her photographer.
Yeah.
So all 3, which really comes in handy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, it does.
So, so I was like, what happened at that wedding?
What
And
happened?
they're like, oh, we remember the moment when the mom came in the bridal suite with these high heels and the bride started crying because she didn't want to wear high heels on her wedding day. And the mom was like, you need to wear these high heels because that's what brides do.
Brutal.
I was like livid, but also I was so upset with myself because I'm like, why did you say that? Like, why didn't you get the facts first? But of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, you poor thing. I'm going to promise you everything before I actually really know what's happening. So yeah, I learned that
And
lesson
then
the hard way.
knowing that, what would you say
Yes.
back to mother? Be like, I found out actually.
Yes. Well, then the bride came back with her mom to pick up the dress and try the dress back on. And the bride was like so gracious because I think she was really embarrassed, like,
Yeah.
why is this happening? And the bride ended up moving across the country. So there you go. And I was like, yeah. So the best part was she comes in with Birkenstocks on. And I was like, so do you have the high heels that you want to wear with this? And she's like, oh yeah, but they're in the car. Did you want them on? I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
And I was upset, and I think they knew that I was upset, and the mom kept her sunglasses on the whole time.
Really? I wonder why.
I was like, I see what you're doing. And
Yep.
so, and I didn't bring it up because they knew, because the fact that the mom had to keep her sunglasses on during the appointment, I'm like,
Oh
you
yeah.
know what you
Yeah.
did. And the bride was so apologetic, and they never got portraits taken again because literally 2 weeks later, the bride moved across the country. So I'm like, okay. But that was one of those situations where, okay, I learned my own mistake too. But what I had to add to the contract was when you sign the dress, you pick up the dress and I'm not responsible for a change of shoes. And I also write in the contract, these are the shoes that she's wearing, whatever. Like everything is documented. And you don't want to be that person who just assumes everybody's going to lie to you.
Yeah.
But you just have to like almost
For your
anticipate it.
bases.
Yes,
Yeah.
just be so careful of like, and every time you learn something, you add it to your contract. You add
Yeah.
that line, and same thing with like, I always add in the contract if I have the veil in the dress bag, because
Mhm.
that's never amounted to anything. But when brides think that I have the veil and then it's actually like in a ball in the floor of a
In the bottom
closet,
of the bag.
yes,
Yeah.
like they're like, you have the veil. And I'm like, no, because you
Uh-huh.
signed that I don't have the veil, but here's some common places where it can be hidden under your bed. I don't know, you know what I mean? And then, oh, actually my mom had it in her closet. I'm like, okay. So that's happened a few times where now but everything you just learn and like you get better and you just get wiser. And then it's also not a big deal to have people sign for everything. Because I'd be like, I don't want people to have to initial like 4 times on this contract. They think that I'm a psychopath, but it's like, I don't care now. Like, you just learn. So
It's really funny though, because go as I go, I've been adding different things to my contract. You have a situation, I'm like, yeah, that should be added in. And it's really funny because I had a friend comment. She's like, I've always wondered why these places of business like have these ridiculous clauses. I'm like, because there's
right,
situations that come up that do happen. And
right.
and now, just hearing stories from me, she's like, now I understand.
Yes. Like there are people who made those clauses happen.
Yes. I didn't just come up with them out of my head.
Exactly. Like, okay. One of my theater stores, their contract says like we are not responsible for changes in the dress due to surgery, pregnancy, extreme weight loss, whatever, because women who get like cosmetic surgery between ordering their dress and then picking up the dress, or suddenly they're 7 months pregnant, it's like that's not the shop's fault, but
Yeah.
it's because some people have tried to be like, well, I didn't know I was going to get pregnant, so I should get a new dress. Like, it takes a person, a human being saying that to like put
Yeah.
that in. So all the things that we learn. Okay, well, to wrap this up, and you've already kind of shared this, so we're going to go back to it, but I honestly forget what it was. What is your best kept secret as a successful business owner of two businesses, really?
My best kept secret, I don't know. I joked about it and I said my husband. I'm like, because he is such a backbone for me. And I'm like, I probably could, I'd be curled up in a ball crying somewhere if I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have him.
Yeah.
He's
Oh,
a good soundboard. Yeah.
well, not all of us can have your husband as our best
No.
kept secret, but just having people outside of your little world too, to
Mhm.
listen, to hear, and like, whether it's like girlfriends within the industry who just get it and like, okay, this is not you. They're coming from a perspective outside of your shop and outside of your head, or like, a partner or a friend who has nothing to do with the wedding industry but knows you as a person. That's also so valuable too.
Yeah.
Like, here's the bigger picture. Okay, so speaking of your husband,
Mhm.
non-bridal related, what is a like perfect weekend for you if it doesn't include brides? Because I know you probably Saturday is actually probably a huge bridal day for you. But like, what's a
It
perfect
is.
weekend off work include?
So perfect weekend off work would include either a long drive with a stop at a beach
Ooh,
and then dinner out, finished off with the movie and like too much junk food with the kids at home.
oh fun. I just love a good movie night too.
Yeah.
And we're still like that. We're like, ooh, Friday night, okay, what do you want to watch? Like, and then we have to pick out the movie beforehand, or else like half the time is spent like going through. That's
Through
like the
them.
worst. And I'm like, I want to start something by now. So yeah, now we know like to have the movie set before, but I don't know. It's just like a really cozy like wrap up
Yeah,
week wrap up tradition for us. Oh, that's so cute. Are there beaches? See, this is my geography knowledge. Are there beaches
that's
near you?
okay. We have the most beautiful beaches in Canada.
Oh,
We typically go to where the strait is. So between us and PEI
mhm.
is the Northumberland Strait, the warmest waters in Canada.
Oh, wow.
They're so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, before we recorded, I didn't realize like that we were 4 hours apart, and I was like, I didn't even know that North America had that wide of a time difference. But actually, probably even Canada goes even more west than me too. So Banff is on our bucket list, and I think that's northwest. So anyway,
Yeah. And there's
that's
another half an hour still ahead of us.
a
Um,
half hour.
yeah, Newfoundland.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Oh.
I had a call earlier this morning with someone from Newfoundland and it was half an hour difference.
That
I'm
is
like,
so strange. I had never heard of that. I didn't even know that was a thing. Have you heard Come From Away? Have you listened to that?
that's yeah,
I love
yeah.
that one. And actually, it's on Apple TV now, so I'm gonna make Duran watch it with me. Speaking of
Aw.
support, I'm like, you're my husband, so we're gonna be watching some musicals, but I love
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
So that's what I think of every time Newfoundland. I'm like, oh, Come From
Mhm.
Away. All right,
Yeah.
so where can listeners find you and get inspired and then follow also along whenever you get your staff and your new building and all the things?
Probably the best bet is my Instagram. We're terrible at posting anything.
For some really good content, you're really selling yourself here.
I know, but I'm
Visit her
working on it. It's
terrible
a work in
Instagram.
progress. I just started working with a marketing
Ooh.
manager, so hopefully we get some stuff, some content.
We'll see the advancements in real time if we start following.
Yeah,
Yay. Okay. Well, thanks, Monique, so much. And thank you for being open to share about stuff that I think this will help a lot of people. Like, okay, it's not just me, and you just gotta find a little support group before
yeah.
the next scary bride comes along. So, all right. Can't wait to get this episode out. And then you know where to reach us if you have a specific client situation that you feel like Monique could give you some therapy through. You know where to reach her and you know where to reach me. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, please subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. And if you're feeling really generous, leave a review. Thanks, everyone.